problem is there just simply not enough fish in the ocean to continue to support 8 billion human beings. And if we don't do something to stop it, by 2040 or so, there will be no fishing industry, there'll be no fish. But the repercussions are even worse than that. If you remove the fish, you diminish biodiversity in the ocean. Phytoplankton populations drop, and we've had a good 38% diminishment of phytoplankton populations since 1950. If the phytoplankton dies, we all die. We don't live on this planet without phytoplankton. It provides 70% of the oxygen we breathe.
I mean, what you just said is worth repeating. If things don't change, we continue with business as usual, by 2040, which is about 2 decades away, there will be essentially no fish left in the sea.
What I say all the time, if the ocean dies, we all die. And we have to have a responsibility to protect biodiversity in the ocean. The interdependence of these species is something that we don't really think about too much. But for instance, one blue whale every day defecates 3 tons of manure into the ocean, very rich in nitrogen and iron. That is the nutrient base for the phytoplankton populations. You diminish whale populations, you diminish phytoplankton populations. Diminish phytoplankton populations, diminish zooplankton and fish populations. So everything's interconnected.
And this is all about the rhino horns, people trying to get the rhino horns, right? But from what I've heard is there's no value in these rhino horns.
Right, so there's no medicinal value in the rhino horn. But what's happened is there was a policy created in the 1970s by CITES that said you cannot trade the rhino horn. So the rhino horn, very different than an elephant tusk. An elephant, you have to kill the elephant. The tusk is a tooth with the blood supply. The rhino horn is your fingernail. It's your hair, it's keratin. And you don't have to kill the rhino to get its horn. But what's happened is because of the policy, in 1976, there were 34 countries in Africa who had vibrant wild rhino populations. Today there's 10 states. There's only 4 that have viable. And South Africa has 85% of those remaining ones.
This is a serious problem. What do you suggest people do to, stop this extinction?
Right.
How do we do that?
Yeah, well, I think it's a new approach because what is working isn't working at all.
Right.
Nothing's working.
Right.
They continue to be poached and we're on the road to extinction. So everything that everybody's trying right now isn't working. So here's what we would suggest. Trimming, we want every rhino to be trimmed, whether it's in a public park, in a private reserve, or in a zoo. Trimming is a preventive, proactive way to stop the poachers.
It's not attractive anymore.
Well, and there's nothing there for them to take.
What's the process for mitigating lionfish?
This is a lionfish containment unit. Okay. So because the
Can we bring that over here real quick?
Absolutely.
Let's show this off here.
Okay. So because of the venomous spines, you have to have something to put it in once you shoot it.
Okay.
The divers go down. Let's see if we can get
that
this
with
loose.
them. Here we go.
Oh, we're stuck.
Okay.
So as you can see, it's just a pole spear with some sharp tips on it.
Right.
And so the diver just goes down and kind of
Got a problem at EarthX. Don't mess with these guys.
we just kind of shoot and and at that point we put it in the lionfish containment unit to keep from getting stung by the venom.
They are solitary in the wild naturally, so they like to be by themselves. However, during the mating season, they will just pair up, so just the 2 will be together. There are a few raptors that are social, but most of them in this area are solitary.
The eyes look so intelligent. Is there intelligence in
they
this?
They look intelligent,
yes,
but they're not actually as intelligent as you would think. So owls, they have really large eyes. So their eyes take up 70% of their skull. And because of that, there's not much room for a brain, and there's no room for muscles in their eyes. So their eyes are actually fixed in their head. So that's why you see them rotating their head almost, it looks like on a swivel, because they have to move their head in order to see around them.
Is that generally true when you see critters with big eyes? That means probably a smaller brain, or is that unique to this?
Well, yeah, probably. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and these guys, they're smart in the way that they are good at what they do. So they're extremely good at hunting and surviving. Other than that, not much intelligence. So they're not as smart as like a raven or a crow or a parrot.